I'm Dr. Pati Vitt. I am currently the Director of Natural Resources in the Natural Resources Department with the Lake County Forest Preserve District. So if you haven't come to see the On to 2050 exhibit at the Dunn Museum, you really should. It's really worth spending some time and thinking about these issues because they're really important. You know, for a static exhibit, it's actually kind of dynamic. It speaks so clearly to the needs of our region for the future in terms of infrastructure, green or otherwise, and in terms of investing in all of our communities. The Growing Through Change project at the Lake County Forest Preserve Districts, which is highlighted at the On to 2050 exhibit, grew out of my personal time at the Chicago Botanic Garden, where I was the curator of the seed bank. And that seed bank seeks to collect seeds of plants in our region that are workhorse species that are used in restoration, not just in the Chicago region, but actually throughout the entire tallgrass prairie biome. And the reason why that was important was because we wanted to make sure that we had seed from all types of different climatic regions, because climate change is pretty unpredictable. There are certain things that we know are going to happen, but we don't know when. For example, we know that it's going to get really hot in the Chicago region. We also know that it's going to rain a whole lot more. But the patterns of those changes and the timing are really unpredictable. On the other hand, the climate models have been really good. For example, some of the climate models predicted that it would be cold and really wet in the spring in 2020. And they were projecting those changes, back in 2005. And so trying to project 15 years into the future, and they got it kind of bang on. And the models are only getting better with more information and more data. And so for this region, and Lake County in particular, we've enjoyed relatively mild summers, even though there's been a lot of flooding. But that is predicted to change. So by 2050, it is going to be significantly warmer, and rainfall patterns will change dramatically. We are expecting to have more rain, but the rain that's going to fall is not going to have the same seasonal patterns, which means that putting seed on the ground in restoration or otherwise managing our natural areas is going to be more of a challenge. To face that challenge, we started this project, Growing Through Change, growing our preserves through the changes that are coming. And we know that our native plants that are here currently, they're doing a great job. They are responding to the climate so far, but we don't know how they're going to respond to the coming changes. In order to try to understand how climate patterns are going to affect our native plants, we installed seed at Grant Woods in a kind of a small but restoration-sized project area of about 120 acres. The seed are from much further south than we would typically source. We determined where we were going to source our seed by doing some climate modeling ourselves. We took known species distributions and applied some of the climate models to those, and then determined that most of the species, should be from around the Rolla, Missouri area in order for them to have the climate signature in 2050. What we wanted to do was to match species that we sourced from our regular vendors, so we know they're going to do well here now, with the same species grown, centered around Rolla, Missouri, so that we could actually compare in the future how the two species are doing. What we'll end up doing is monitoring about 60 permanent monitoring plots. We'll follow things like successful seed germination and establishment. Also, in the long term, look at things like how robust the individual plants are, the timing of their flowering, because that actually might be different. The northern seed might actually flower earlier than the southern seed because they have a shorter growing season. So there might be some what we would call phenological or timing of biological events, phenological mismatches. If there are phenological mismatches, two things could occur. The pollinators might not be available to pollinate on time when the things are flowering, and that wouldn't be good. Even if the flowers are available at the right time for the pollinators, the season may be too long or too short, or late summer drought might keep them from producing enough seed to keep the population going. And we hope to engage high school students and other volunteer monitors to take some of that data for us so that we're all learning together about how our climate might really affect our native plant communities.